All right. So, okay, good evening. At this time, will open the Anacortes City Council meeting for October 5th, 2020. Ms. Hunt, would you take the roll?
Mr. Carter?
Here.
Mr. Young?
Here.
Mr. Walters?
Here.
Ms. Cleland McGrath?
Here.
Ms. Moulton? You can wave if we can't hear you. Mr. McDougall?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Thank you.
Well, at this time, we'll move on to announcements and committee reports. And we'll go to item 2A, which is the mayor's budget message. So every year prior to us going through the budget process, I deliver a budget message to the city council and the community. And so at this time, I will do so. I will be speaking for 15 to 20 minutes. And then Mr. Hoagland will have some closing remarks as we start our official budget season for developing the 2021 City of Anacortes annual budget. And honorable City Council and members of the community, I am pleased to present to you the city's 2021 proposed annual budget. This budget continues our commitment to balance fiscal responsibility while meeting the City Council and the community's priorities of public safety, essential services, and infrastructure that allows for growth. Our world is evolving and changing, and it's our responsibility as your city leadership to make the strategic decisions that will support the sustainability, the technological progress, and preserve the quality of life that is hallmark of Anacortes. The city's financial roadmap for 2021 has been created in a time mired by economic uncertainty brought on by the coronavirus. I acknowledge this uncertainty and reinforce our commitment to creating a budget that reflects our commitment to moving our community forward by maintaining and building essential infrastructure, providing efficient and quality services, while being conscientious of our financial position in compliance with RCW 35A 33. Perhaps the most significant change in the 2021 budget is a transition from a biennial budget to an annual budget. We are leveraging the best available information and revenue projections to establish this annual budget. An annual budget will allow us to concentrate on short-term economic indicators and be nimble in our response to the uncertainty of the current economic conditions. Expenditure budgets must be balanced against revenue budgets. And those projections for the budget year 2021 are tempered against the effect of the coronavirus in 2020. Sales tax is one of our largest tax revenue streams funding city functions. The city has seen an average monthly decrease in sales tax revenue of 11%, and in the recent 2 months, we have seen a decreased impact on sales tax revenue. To develop the sales tax projections, we made assumptions based on available data. Our information indicates that we will continue to improve throughout the remainder of this year. This means we project to see sales tax revenue bounce back to be about 3% higher than prior year by the fourth quarter. The other two major tax revenue streams, property tax and utility tax, remain consistent compared to prior years. Some other revenue streams that are dependent on user access, such as recreation, library fees, were kept at a moderate levels compared to prior years. As the economy reopens, we expect that these revenue streams to return to normal levels. In preparation for the 2021 budget, we shifted property tax revenues to the general fund so the funds can be administered to ensure adequate resources are available to support the essential services. Early in my administration, we adopted a fiscal policy that put on the books a rainy day fund, cash reserve, and a general fund. That reserve fund increases or decreases as the city budget grows or shrinks. For the fiscal year 2020, the reserve stands at over $5.4 million. It is available to support general operations. Other operating funds that have their own reserves as well. Each of the utility funds have a rainy day reserve that represent 10% of that fund. And that fund expenditures, and that exceeds $2.2 million in 2020. Additionally, we also have our equipment rental fund that has over $7.6 million set aside for future equipment replacement. The financial impact of the coronavirus and the city's commitment to investing in our technological infrastructure has guided the framework of this year's budget. Funding priorities have been reassessed, and we've made tough decisions. My perennial focus is to provide services to every Anacortes resident and build the infrastructure that is our foundation for a vibrant future for generations to come. It is the benefit of our community's future. I look forward to working with all of you in the 2021 budget, and I affirm my resolve to employ sound business practices that are efficient, effective, and responsive to the delivery of city services. This coming year, many department budgets will remain the same. Due to the economic landscape and projected decreases in revenue, there are accompanying changes to departmental budgets. Several departments are utilizing what we call a hold-the-line budget, in which they remain staffed at current levels and continue to provide efficient, high-quality services and move already established projects forward. Beyond that, the budget remains static from the previous year. Public safety. Our police and fire departments have been on the front line during this corona pandemic. The focus of these departments has been to prevent and respond to crimes and emergency situations professionally and with integrity. They have cultivated partnerships with other agencies, strengthened our community's readiness and resilience. The city supports our public safety departments and remains committed to providing staff with the tools and the resources needed to keep our community safe. In the 2021 budget, we have budgeted to fully staff the police department and focus on investing in de-escalation and bias training for all our commissioned officers. To facilitate physical distancing and provide safe, contactless way to process fingerprints, the city has a new machine that will be in place when the public safety building reopens to the public. This will process the nearly 100 applications for fingerprinting that we currently have backlogged. The Anacortes Fire Department experienced budget cuts in 2020 to account for projected revenue losses associated with the coronavirus, and the budgetary priorities in 2021 will be to focus on reinstituting the training and education that was foregone in 2020. Infrastructure in the city. Access Anacortes Fiber. In the 2021 budget reflects a significant investment in Access Anacortes Fiber's internet. In 2021, the city will continue to expand broadband access by expanding fiber to the premise to an additional 1,815 residents and businesses. Reliable, affordable, municipally managed high-speed internet service is a necessary and important investment in our community. The growth of Access Anacortes Fiber Internet improves the quality of life in our community. Widely available broadband access supports job searches, online learning, telemedicine, remote employment. Building a broadband network for our community is like building the electric networks in the 1920s. It provides building blocks for a creative, innovative economy while establishing a platform for business development and expansion. Our daily lives are now driven by technology from our work and how we meet and talk with medical providers and how we obtain education for our children and ourselves, and a way in which we safely stay connected with our friends and our families. The greatest asset to the city of Anacortes is each of you who build our community. Building fiber infrastructure in our community will position Anacortes as we move toward an increasingly digital future. Anacortes is bridging the digital divide, and the 2021 budget reflects the investment in the Access Anacortes Fiber as we work actively towards our service goals. By the end of 2021, we project revenues will offset our operational expenses. Staff is actively pursuing grant opportunities to offset costs associated with the network expansion as we continue to support our local businesses and residents. Public Works is the city's largest department, and it's responsible for managing and the construction and maintenance of streets, water, sewer, stormwater lines, the production and distribution of water to our region, purchasing and maintaining the city's vehicle fleet, maintenance, repair, and construction of city-owned buildings, and resource conservation. The 2021 budget focuses on many capital improvements and maintenance of infrastructure. The raw water pipeline project, which drills a 2,000-foot bore drill under the Skagit River, has begun and will be the major focus in our 2021 budget. In addition, the completion of the Clearwell project will provide redundancy to our water treatment plant, furthering the resiliency and security of our regional water system. These combined projects are budgeted at $12 million, paid for with the utility revenue bonds. Another priority for 2021 is the wastewater treatment plant outfall, which strives to eliminate and reduce surface sewer overflow and combined sewer overflows. This project is budgeted at $20 million. The city is currently working with FEMA to apply for and obtain a grant funding to assist with the funding of a portion of this project. The balance would be paid with a utility revenue bond. My ongoing priority is to take care of our streets, and in the 2021, our pavement restoration program and roadway improvement continues. Projects will alleviate safety concerns at 12th and Commercial and 32nd and M Avenue. Estimates for the 12th and Commercial project currently are at $3.3 million, and 32nd and M Avenue are at $1.3 million. Both projects will be paid for with a combination of grants and local dollars. The A Avenue landfill cleanup project will be funded by the Public Works Solid Waste Fund. The city is following the guidelines laid out by the Department of Ecology under the Model Toxics Control Act. Essential services. The Planning, Community, and Economic Development Department will maintain focus on ongoing projects in 2021. They will complete the update of the critical areas regulations in Shoreline Master Program. Another primary focus will be to work with the community to address concerns relating to the R4 Zone Heights bonus and updating development regulations as needed. The department has been the keystone of success for telework at the city. Throughout this year, the department has been reviewing and issuing single-family residential and single-family residential alteration permits, surpassing the number of permits that were issued in 2019. To facilitate the anticipated continued high volume of permit applications and increasing workload, the budget reflects a commitment to funding equipment that will facilitate telework for our employees. In February of 2020, city voters approved a 0.1% sales tax increase, the proceeds of which go towards affordable housing, as outlined in RCW 8214530. Current estimates put the revenue at $536,000 for 2021. The project will fund the proceeds will fund construction of housing by the Anacortes Housing Authority and the Anacortes Family Center. The issue of affordable housing is one that our community is taking on together, and it's important for the future of our community. The city employs a full-time public defender and legal assistant to meet the state-mandated standards for delivery of public defense services. This budget maintains the commitment of enabling this team to continue to serve the community to the highest standards. Our municipal court will continue to serve the community, and through a newly created community court, our criminal justice system will continue to explore innovative alternatives to incarceration for those who need resources in our community. Skagit County applied for a grant to offset the costs associated with community court, and in the 2021 budget, the City of Anacortes has committed a financial contribution of $7,202 towards this program. Under city business, the city's attorney office provides in-house counsel to the city leaders and staff. The legal department works to ensure the city meets the highest legal standards. A primary focus of the department in 2021 is to make the Laserfish forms process interactive with the public to provide transparency and accessibility to the public. Additionally, the city attorney's office will evaluate and build on the city's processes for responding to public records requests to promote transparency and ensure compliance with information requests. As the work of the city attorney's office continues to grow, and the department will evaluate and assess the opportunity in future budgets to bring on an assistant city attorney. Our human resource department is committed to developing and maintaining a professionally highly qualified, service-oriented workforce. The commitment translates to reaffirming the city's commitment to a culture of inclusion and diversity by providing staff with the opportunity to engage in training about understanding bias and building inclusivity into our organization. The city is currently in the process of hiring a human resource and labor relations director. This new department head will oversee labor relations with our 4 collective bargaining units this next year. These contract negotiations will begin shortly to address the 2021 wages, and then they will transition to other items specified as part of the 2020 bargaining agreement. In 2021, contract negotiations will commence with the IAFF 1537 and the Fraternal Order of Police, our commissioned officers, and the Fraternal Order of Police of our non-commissioned officers. The IT department supports the city's computing and networking requirements. Throughout this year, we have played a pivotal role in keeping the city's business moving forward as many staff transition to working remotely. Their adaptability and professionalism and resiliency is not often seen by the public. The behind-the-scenes work of this department is crucial to the success of the city of Anacortes. The 2021 budget includes funding for continuing services that provide managed detection and response to our network intrusions on a 24/7 basis, keeping our data and information protected. They will also be updating our systems to transition to a hyper-convergent environment, and the 2021 budget for IT also includes a reorganization of the department and hiring of a systems administrator. The department is funded through interfund charges from every department that uses its services based on the number of electronic devices the department has. The interfund charges pay for the department's operating costs as well as replacement charges for future computers. Enrichment. Our park and recreation staff has been innovative and adaptable in the face of many coronavirus restrictions, which has inhibited in-person services and programs. Outdoor recreation has become a crucial part of assuring residents have access to safe, socially distanced opportunities for physical activity, and that translates into the budget through continued commitment for trail maintenance and expansion. The 2021 budget for this department reflects a commitment to completing the Depot Plaza restroom, as well as continued improvements at Washington Park's campground, including replacing aging electrical infrastructure. The budget also facilitates the initial clearing and construction of the Grandview Cemetery expansion, and the city is also working with the Samish Indian Nation and Department of Natural Resources on ways to improve the health of the Fidalgo Bay for salmon habitat. Our library is preparing for the eventual reopening of city facilities and getting back to serving the community in person in 2021 or sooner. Staff time will focus on safe reopening, continued partnerships to support students, exploring opportunities to expand digital resources, and strengthening partnerships with the Friends of the Library and the Library Foundation, which support has been crucial during these uncertain economic times. The Anacortes Museum continues to focus on high-level customer service and expansion of engagement on their increasingly in-demand digital platform. The recent reopening of the Carnegie Gallery has been a success, and the city hopes to replicate that in other cities' facilities as our community begins to reopen. So, it is my fiscal responsibility to continually evaluate the city's revenue and expenditures with a view of maintaining a strong financial position while providing quality municipal services. Now more than ever, we face the challenge in our community. This budget has been created in the shadow of a devastating public health crisis. I could not be prouder of the city's response in this crisis. This budget reflects our unwavering commitment to serving each and every resident to the highest standard and protecting the strong fiscal position of the city. We commit to providing our frontline public safety professionals with the resources and the tools they need, continuously maintaining and improving our public infrastructure and facilities, and most of all, assuring that every resident enjoys the quality of life that is hallmark of our community. So thank you. That is my 2021 budget message. And at this time, Mr. Hoagland, our finance director, would you like to add anything?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, if I may, I put a couple of slides together. I wanted to just go through some material, just a couple of points real quickly, if I could. So just a quick background. September 14th, there's a quick schedule update. September 14th is when the ordinance to revoke the biennial budget was adopted. So we'll be, through the rest of this year, working on an annual budget. October 5th is where we are tonight, the mayor's budget message, and introducing the draft budget. In a couple of weeks, on the 19th, we will have the public hearing on revenue sources. That will include a 1% property tax increase, and the IPD, the implicit price deflator for September, was less than 1%. So in order to take the full 1% property tax increase, there will need to be a resolution of substantial need adopted as well. So we'll have both of those will be up for review later in the year, but the public hearing on that in 2 weeks. That same night, October 19th, will also be the first detailed review of the budget. We'll go through that at the bars number level. We'll have department heads available to answer questions. The following week, October 26th, we'll continue that review of the budget. And I did want to point out, we made a conscious decision to shorten the budget schedule this year to allow more time for additional information on resources to try and be gathered to make better estimates for next year. And I think that worked well for us this year. A couple of things that we noted in the sales tax collections, those first couple of months that were impacted by COVID, we saw impacts greater than 20% each month. Since then, the impact has been much less than that, more around the 3% mark. So when you look at those totals, on average, our decrease has been, more than 11%, but the impact seems to be lessening as we go on. So those are the trends that we incorporated into our projections for next year, and we're actually projecting now to have a modest increase in our sales tax in 2021. If we would have started this process a couple of months ago, like we normally do, that revenue projection would have looked much different. It would have, and we would have had to revise those. Couple of significant points I wanted to point out in this year's budget. We do, in the resources for the general fund, we do have a commercial loan of $2.6 million budgeted, and that's to support the continued capital costs for the fiber backbone. We also, in our equipment rental and IT charges, those are interfund charges that we collect from the funds using city vehicles and city computers. And there's two parts of those interfund charges. One is for the operating cost to pay for the cost to actually operate those departments, and the other part is the future replacement charges. So we did remove future replacement charges from the 2021 budget in those interfund charges to conserve resources. And that's so that affected all of the governmental funds, but not the utilities. So we excluded the utilities, but the funds impacted by and really supported by taxes, we removed those replacement charges just for the next year. And the road overlay program, we cut down to about $850,000 in fiscal year 2021, again to conserve resources in the general fund. So a summary, I put together just a quick summary of what the general fund departments look like, totaling $19.3 million for the general fund, and then the total budget, general fund at 19.3, and then the rest of the funds here following, for a total of just under $64 million for the total budget, including the utilities and the ER&R fund. So after tonight's meeting, the draft budget will be available on the city's website at anacorteswa.gov.
Thank you, Mr. Hoagland. Right. So we'll move on now. Oh, go ahead. Are you still there?
Sorry.
I thought you were done. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, you're finished? Okay. All right, we'll move on to item 2B, which is a COVID-19 update. And as of today, Island Hospital has tested 5,972 people. We've had 65 positive cases in Anacortes, 10 people hospitalized, and 0 deaths. In Skagit County, we've had 1,128 positive cases. We've hospitalized 99 people, and we've had 22 deaths. And then the Washington State Department of Health has confirmed 90,276 confirmed cases with 2,158 deaths in the state of Washington. So we have 5 metrics that we're supposed to meet, and the county needs to have fewer than 25 cases per 100,000 over 14 consecutive days. So this morning we were at 31 cases per 100,000. And as of 3 p.m. today, we're at 24.9 cases per 100,000. So we are fluctuating. So we're keeping a really close eye on that. We're really close to meeting that metric on a consistent basis. Number two, the county must have greater than 50 individuals tested during the prior week, and we still don't have current information from the state on that metric. Number three, the percentage of individuals testing positive must be less than 2%. We're currently at 1.4%. The percentage of beds occupied in the county must be less than 80. We're currently at 71.6. And number five, lastly, the percentage of beds occupied by COVID-19 cases must be less than 10%, and we're currently at 0.09%. So we're meeting 4 of the 5 metrics, and Dr. Librand made a statement this afternoon saying that basically we're almost where the governor said we have to be to move forward in phases, but wanted to remind all of us the governor since has paused that Safe Start program, and so we're looking for new direction on that, so more information to come. But we as a community and county are doing a really good job of holding the line on COVID. In the United States, there are over 7.4 million cases, and we've had 210,000 deaths. And globally, 35.3 million cases, with 1,004,000 people have died from coronavirus as of today. So that's my update on COVID-19. Any questions? All right. Yes, go ahead.
Just wanted to, thank you and the team and the staff for all the work and the effort you put into making sure that the community was safe. I know we had some events planned, and normally we have a lot of people coming in, and we want them to come, but it was a huge effort going into trying to mitigate that without being offensive, but yet carry the message so we can eventually open. And that was a Herculean task. I know it was. And I just wanted to commend you and the team and everyone that worked on it for being able to convey that message wonderfully and ended up, turning out real good. So thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. I really appreciate that. I know we work really hard at that. We are going into winter, so I'm still really concerned about our small businesses going into winter. We'll lose some of our outdoor space. So more to come on that, but we're navigating it. So item 2C is our Public Works Committee report. Do we have anybody from Public Works? No report?
Here.
Mr. Walters.
The Public Works Committee met, and I would invite Anthony to jump in and help with any of the report. One of the first things we talked about was our strategy for procurement of contractors on the new outfall project. And Public Works would like to pursue an alternative to design, bid, build. And we provided some feedback on that. I think maybe a couple of us were skeptical. And then there was Carolyn, whose microphone didn't work. So she was not really able to participate, but she could listen and type. We also talked about a couple of other things, including the PUD is continuing to move forward with transfer of the South Hidalgo water system to the city of Anacortes. They recently voted to continue the path toward that. Several steps more to go. And we talked about replacement schedule for our water lines and how our water lines in the retail water system and how we are building up data about all of those water lines in our cartograph system now, which will provide us better opportunities to make intelligent decisions about when to replace which lines. Anthony, Carolyn, did I miss anything?
No, you really didn't. Normally, Carolyn does such a wonderful job, but I think the microphone has got him muted. I'm glad, Ryan, we were keeping as reasonably good notes as we know Carolyn does. But the only thing that I would add is just that, it was interesting to hear how Public Works is overlaying the various parts of not only road fixing, but the pipes within it, and so that it it's sort of a unity of where the needs is, and then it can be reevaluated, and the priority will be based on a number of factors, including those things. So it gives them a playbook and a way to visually look at where it is that we need to do the work, and if we do the work, what else can we do to make it more efficient and save the city money? So it was absolutely a wonderful thing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so at this time, there's no other comments on that. I'll move to item 3. This is public comment, and this is on anything that's not on the agenda. And is there anyone that would like to speak? I see one attendee. Matt, does anyone have their hand up to speak?
Madam Mayor, no one has their hands up to speak.
Okay, thank you, Matt. All right, we'll move on then to our consent agenda, item 4A and B.
Mayor Gear,
Mr. Miller,
I move to approve consent agenda items A and B.
Second.
okay, we have a motion by Mr. Miller, a second by Mr. Young. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion carries. All right, we're going to move on now to item 5. It's a public hearing. It's a closed record decision hearing for a conditional use permit 2020-001-10 for the address 1015 18th Street, planning lot, conditional use permit. This is an action item, and only parties of record may speak tonight. So if there's anybody at some point is here to do that, if they could raise their hand. If not, I'm going to let Libby at this time start, and we'll take anyone that is a party of record can address the council at some point. Ms. Grage.
Well, thank you, and good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council, and members of the community. This evening, we are here to, let me get my document set here. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So this evening, we're here to take a look at conditional use permit 2020-0001. The project is, the permit application was submitted by Madrona Real Estate Investors X LLC, and they are also the landowner for the project site. The project proposal is to construct a private parking lot, and a conditional use permit is required for a portion of the parking lot that will be constructed in the R4 zone. The zoning for the overall site is both R4 partially and the commercial zone. And then again, this site location is 1015 18th Street. Just a little procedural overview and project history for the proposal. As I mentioned, a conditional use permit is required, and a CUP requires a Type 4 City Council review process, and that includes a pre-application meeting, a pre-application neighborhood meeting prior to a formal submittal of an application. And so the applicant conducted both of those meetings last year. After a formal application submittal, there is a notice of application that is published with a 21-day comment period, and the application is routed to all staff, city staff and departments and any applicable agencies that may have comments on the proposal. Following the staff review, there is a public hearing that is, notice is published, and the Planning Commission held the public hearing for this particular proposal on September 23rd, 2020. And, and then this evening, we are here for the City Council closed record decision hearing. There we go. So the project record that you have in your packet includes exhibits 1 through 6, and those are the documents that were provided to the Planning Commission as part of their review process. And then in the City Council's packet, we've added the Planning Commission's recommendation and then the draft Planning Commission minutes for the public hearing. The project location, so the black star shows the approximate project site. It's located just off of the Commercial Avenue corridor. Commercial Avenue is right here. Oh, you might not be able to see me. Laser pointer. There we go. Commercial Avenue is right here and 18th Street. So it's on the south side of 18th Street, located across the street from Fidalgo Square, which has a couple of tenants, the likes of Starbucks, Papa Murphy's, and a couple of other restaurants and retail uses there. I guess I can't change the page when I've got my pointer. Okay. So just zooming in a little bit more closely on the project, as I mentioned, the site is a split zone. So a part of it is in the R4 zone, which is the purple here, and a part of it is in the commercial zone. It has an undesignated block frontage designation. So we're down here on 18th Street. You can see the Commercial Avenue corridor has a mixed designation, which extends to the west, just one parcel in, and then the subject project site is the little orange, or excuse me, the little pink dot that you can see there just below the street in 18th Street. And the significance of the undesignated block frontage designation is that it does allow for more flexibility for non-residential development frontages. There aren't specific parking lot location restrictions like there are for a storefront designation or a mixed designation. Getting just a little bit closer to the site, so here's an aerial photo showing the existing site conditions. 18th Street to the north, O Avenue to the west. There's an alley to the south here, another alley just to the east of the project site, and then Commercial Avenue is out here. There are existing utilities, water and stormwater exist within 18th Street, and then the sewer is located in the alley. The site currently has a single family residence on it and a detached garage that is proposed to be removed to make room for the parking area. And then site access to the existing site is currently from this gravel alley to the east and to the south. This slide is just again showing that the zoning on the property is split. The green here is the commercial zone, and then from to the west is the R4 zone. This is a close-up showing the site diagram showing the proposal again, just to show you right where the zone splits right here. The red line is the zone split, and the approximately western 30 feet of the parking lot are in the R4 zone, and that is the portion of this project that needs a conditional use permit. The rest of the project site is in the commercial zone, and a parking lot is a permitted use in the commercial zone. It's a type 1 administrative ministerial action. So again, just showing the code section where we're talking about the conditional use permit being required in the R4 zone, and then it's subject to this development condition here, which I cut and pasted, 1944-060. And it says in the R4 zone, parking as a principal use is restricted to lots abutting the commercial zone and supporting a mixed use development in the commercial zone, C zone. This is a site plan showing the proposal. There would be 18 parking stalls, approximately 4,000 824 square feet of new paving for the parking area with the 2 rows of angled parking. Proposed ingress to and egress to the site would be via 18th Street to, let me get my laser pointer again, via 18th Street to this existing alley here, where vehicles then could proceed to turn into the angled spaces. And then also down to the alley along the south, vehicles can continue to travel and pull into these angled spaces here and come back out onto 18th Street. Or alternatively, they could continue out on the alley out to O Avenue. The proposal includes improvements such as a new 6-foot wide sidewalk located 6 feet back from the existing road, from the curb, and also paving of the existing alley to the east and paving of the alley on the south side of the project out to O Avenue. Stormwater for the proposal will be conveyed to a facility located right up here, underground facility that will provide water quality treatment before being released into the existing city stormwater system, which is located in a pipe out here in 18th Street. And then there's also a rain garden proposed down here at the southern end of the property. This is the landscaping proposal for the site. There are some street trees proposed within that 6-foot landscape strip between the curb and the sidewalk. So we've got 3 street trees, landscaping between the drive aisle and the existing single-family residence that is proposed to be retained. And then there's also a type C landscape buffer that is required according to our code, 10 foot wide along between the parking area and the front property line here. And for that, the applicant did request a departure to that provision to sort of taper that 10-foot buffer down. The site plan here, you can see where the applicant is proposing to provide a 30-foot inside turning radius for larger sanitation vehicles and just vehicles that utilize the alley. Back in, I want to say 1950, in the 50s. Steve Lane can correct me if I'm not right. But the eastern portion of this right-of-way was vacated, the alley right-of-way, and this portion, the north-south portion, was deeded to the city in exchange, is my understanding. But there was no turning radius provided, so we have a problem right now where sanitation vehicles and other vehicles are cutting the corner of this property. So this proposal would be to formalize that as a public access. So a summary of public comments. There were a couple of letters that were received during the written public comment period. We had one letter that was in support of the proposal, felt that the additional parking was needed in the subject area. There were some folks that were concerned about stormwater impacts, the addition of impervious surface in general, and impacts on the Salish Sea and the overall health of that ecosystem. There were also some concerns identified by members of the public and the Planning Commission, some of the members of the Planning Commission during the public hearing about traffic congestion in the area. I know it's a very, very busy area, very popular area to be. And then also questions about whether the additional parking is actually needed as determined by a parking demand study. Here I've just listed the procedural requirements and the conditional use permit requirements, and based on staff's review, the project meets both of those standards, procedural and conditional use permit criteria in 1936.040. And staff's recommendation was to approve the conditional use permit subject to conditions. After the public hearing, the Planning Commission also voted to recommend approval of the conditional use permit to City Council, subject to the conditions that were recommended by staff. I've just got some site photos here since I know we're not doing site visits all together. We're not able to do that yet. So I tried to take some photos of what it looks like. These were taken, I guess, a couple weeks ago. So the orange dot represents where I'm standing, and then the blue arrow is showing the direction that I'm taking the photo. So this is that gravel alley that I mentioned that's located to the east of the site. And sorry, laser pointer. And then this is the area where the new parking would be. This is, I'm standing in the same spot and taking a picture to the west towards O Avenue. So this is where across the property frontage a new sidewalk would be installed. This is the existing detached garage that's located on the property that would be removed. And then again, looking west down the alleyway, which is gravel, towards O Avenue. Looking back north toward Fidalgo Square. And this is the existing development that the proposed parking area is intended to help provide some additional parking for. And then this is on O Avenue looking back to the east, down the alley, down the existing gravel alley. So that alley would be paved by the proposed project. And that concludes staff's presentation. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer those. And I'm not hopefully the applicant's representative is on the line and he can be available for questions as well.
Yeah, at this time, we don't have any other attendees. Yes, Ms. Moulton.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Grage, for your presentation, and I also appreciated the wealth of information that you gave us in our council packet this week. It was really helpful and very complete, so thank you for that. One thing I wanted to bring up is I share the concerns of one of the public commenters in the stormwater treatment plan. I understand that the parking lot itself is between 4,000 and 5,000 square feet, but when the alleys are both improved, we're talking more in the range of 10 to 11,000 square feet. And I also understand there's a perk filter, and I saw if that the representation of the rain garden is accurate, it looks miniature. So my concern is for wastewater running into eventually Puget Sound, and I would advocate for a very robust rain stormwater treatment system, and I believe that's forthcoming. So could you speak a little bit to that? Because what I see doesn't, to my untrained eye, does not seem sufficient for the amount of impervious surface.
Yeah, sure. I can try, and then I might invite Steve Lang, who I think is also on the line, who would be reviewing the stormwater report provided by the applicant prior to issuing the construction plan approval. So the applicant will be required to comply with Chapter 1976, which is the city's stormwater requirements, which reference the Department of Ecology's Stormwater Management Manual for Western Washington. So their report will have to meet all of the minimum requirements that are outlined in the Ecology's manual. And is Matt, are you able to see if Steve Lang is available to provide some additional information? Matt? Mr. Kaufman?
Yeah, sorry, I said my mute button. Say that again?
Yep.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep. Welcome, Mr. Lang.
All right. Yeah, so, it's correct. The parking lot is designed to go into a PERT filter system, which is a filter media. The paved parking area, or not the paved parking area, but the alleyway, was of concern. And one of the ideas that we had was to make it more of a bioswale, incorporated into the landscape plan, rain garden, if you will. This has been reviewed by Gray and Osborne, our third-party reviewer, and all the comments have been addressed and it's been sized. So I'm with Carolyn that it does look small, but it's on a small piece of paper too, on a screen. I think that when you get out there, you'll see that it's going to be 20 feet long, and it'll have some depth to it. It'll have some width to it. It's just hard to tell on the plan set itself. But all comments have been addressed by the applicant to Gray and Osborne in their review.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. Ms. Moulton?
Thank you, Ms. Grage and Mr. Lang. I really appreciate that. And I don't know, I did read the Planning Commission minutes, and it wasn't clear to me why the two, and I don't know if this is a question to ask during City Council, I'm new at this part. Do we know why the two planning commissioners voted to reject the application?
Mayor?
Yes, Ms. Grage.
Thank you. If I recall correctly, the commissioners were concerned about the impacts that well, number one was traffic congestion. They felt that the area was already too congested with vehicles, and that the additional traffic would be an adverse impact. And then the other issue was just having a parking lot, a primary purpose parking lot on the site. It was felt that that might not be the ideal use for that land, and so commissioners wanted to sort of see a demonstration that the parking area is actually needed based on a demand study. And so those are kind of the main points that I took out of the meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Walters and then Mr. Miller.
I had sort of similar questions to Ms. Moulton's questions. To start with stormwater, yeah, I understood that the stormwater plan had been reviewed by Gray and Osborne and that we had basically signed off on it, but it's a condition, or rather one of the conditions in the Planning Commission's approval is that a stormwater plan be submitted. How do we square that circle? Is the condition really just that the development follow the plan that they've already submitted?
Yeah, this is Steve here. They've already submitted one, and it's gone through the process. So I think that the condition is just a standard condition that we put in most of our projects like this.
Yeah, that's correct. That's a standard boilerplate condition that we would have for most development types.
So I wonder if maybe that condition might be revised in the future, simply to say that the plan they already submitted and that staff already reviewed and said was good shall be complied with. Because it currently reads, a stormwater management plan shall be submitted for review and approval. But so if I have that right, it seems just a little oddly worded.
Sure.
Yeah, Steve here again. Yeah, you're correct. So in the past, we've kind of gone through this process, and then they would submit the drainage report. They would submit the civil plans, and we just have preliminaries. And so by today's standards, we've been asking them to submit early on, so that way when it goes through the process, it's basically ready to be constructed. So that's a good point. We can revise that.
Yeah, I definitely think that this approach, going through it early makes more sense, especially for a project of this size and complexity. But then I guess my other question was also in line with Ms. Moulton's. It's concerning to me that two members of the Planning Commission voted to deny a project that is allowed in the zone that would create more traffic congestion, I guess, like every project conceivable for the zone. I think that the Planning Commission needs to be approving projects consistent with the criteria in our code, and if they're not, I think that that's a separate issue that we should be addressing separately from this proceeding, but does need to be addressed.
Mr. Miller, did you have something?
Thanks, Mayor. Just a real quick comment on that, Mr. Walters' comment. You can't force a unanimous vote on the Planning Commission, whether or not they read the code correctly or not. So I disagree with that point. But my main comment is, first of all, Ms. Grange, that was an excellent report. It was fantastic. It lined up with what I read in the packet. And my big question you answered right away was on page 4 of 7 of the staff report, where the line is on the R4 versus the commercial. Very helpful to point that out. It's basically a sixth of the parking spots are in the R4 zone. Again, important to look at this conditional use permit, but I think for the public and other council members to recognize it's a pretty small portion of the actual parking lot that is going into the R4 zone, which is why we're having this discussion anyway. The concern for the stormwater that was raised, it's a concern, but if we did our job in 19.76 like we said we were going to do, and we trust the staff, which I do, to look at the stormwater plan, I'm confident they have a good stormwater plan, and bringing up things like impervious surfaces at this point is not a valid critique of this project, in my opinion. The other concern is it needed. The property owner, I think they feel like it's needed. Most of this is in a area that they could conceivably do this. So I'm good with that. Traffic congestion, if you try to go to Starbucks or Papa Murphy's at any time, I think you realize that it's a potential relief to traffic congestion. And I don't think there was a question in there except, I guess the follow-up, is this in compliance with our 19.76 stormwater management plan, Ms. Grange?
Sure. Yes, it's been reviewed by the Public Works Department and the city's third-party reviewer, Gray and Osborne.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Ms. Cleland-McGrath and Mr. Young.
Yeah, thank you. To respond to Ms. Moulton and Mr. Walters, I actually was curious about the fact that there were two commissioners who voted against it. So I did go back and watch the Planning Commission meeting. And just to expand on what Libby shared, some of the concern was the fact that, when the initial development occurred, was there an appropriate amount of parking? And yes, it met all of the criteria. But because there is the Starbucks business there, and because they have Wi-Fi, there's significantly more people who come in, single people who come in cars who then park there for an extended period of time because you can sit there and drink coffee and all of those things. So it's kind of a unique situation compared to, the 1,000 square feet and the necessary, or retail space for 1,000 square feet and the necessary parking spots associated with that. There was also kind of a concern of, is this the best use of space, and is this going to alleviate the problem? Do we need to have a more extensive parking study so we know what's actually required? Fortunately, with COVID, that could take 6 months to a year to actually complete that parking study. One thing that I did want to just clarify for my brain, and I think it's kind of nice to know, yes, it's the, and Libby, you probably are the one who's going to have to answer that, so heads up. Yes, the parking, this conditional use permit, and this parking lot is being built by the same owners as the Fidalgo, the strip mall, and it is going to be used by the strip mall. But there is not, correct me if I'm wrong, there's nothing on title that ties it to that development. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's nothing that staff or the Planning Commission recommended in terms of doing that or a requirement in the code.
Yeah.
If it were required to meet the minimum parking requirements for that particular use, then yes, there would likely be something recorded to the title of the property to make sure it didn't get sold separately.
Yeah.
But this is just additional parking to satisfy the needs and not the minimum parking requirements of the code.
I just thought that was an interesting thing that I wanted everyone else to know. And then the other thing is, it is going to remain one parcel, correct? The conditional use parking, and then also the single family home that is currently on the property, that will maintain being one parcel?
That's my understanding for the time being. In the future, it's possible that the applicant could separate them out. We'd have to look at what the minimum lot size is for a single family in the R4 zone. I want to say it's 3,000 square feet. So that existing single family residence would need to stay on a lot at least that large.
And then finally, if for some reason they wanted to expand the parking, since it is the same parcel and is partially part on commercial, if they went through the conditional use permit again, they could in theory expand the parking to cover the whole parcel, correct? Through a new CUP?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. I mean, I think it is a challenging block in our community, and I think this makes a lot of sense. And as long as the sewer situation is handled, I think it's a good solution, and I appreciate them trying to work to clear up some of the on-street parking.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Young.
I just wanted to point out to the point that Ms. Moulton made, particularly with heavy discussion items such as this particular project. You know, we've had a lot of discussion, a lot of community input. We've, had to review our thoughts of the R4 zone. And in projects like this, I think that it is highly appropriate to have that discussion publicly sometimes, parts of it, because what it really does, it conveys to the community the depth of the decision and the complexity of the consideration. Regardless of which side of the coin you're on, it really does help that process in conveying it to our constituents exactly as what's taking place. So I commend the process, and I love the fact of how this was laid out for us, particularly Ms. Grange, and the packet and how it came forward, because it really was in-depth and very detailed, and it also allowed the public to be able to understand and then hear from its representative council as to the reasons why this is moving forward, why it's being supported or not, and how we got here. So I really like these discussions. Thank you.
Any other comments? And Matt, is there any party of record? No, I don't see anyone. Okay. Continue discussion.
Mayor Gare?
Mr. Walters.
I'm quite certain there are a lot of people that were aware of this conditional use permit application, and we really received very few comments. Seems to be all straightforward. And it will be a welcome addition of parking in that particular part of town. So I move that we approve the conditional use permit subject to the conditions recommended by the Planning Commission.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Walters, a second by Mr. Miller. Is there any other discussion? So Ms. Hunt, if you could take the vote on the CUP 2020.001 for 1015 18th Street, a parking lot conditional use permit. Please do so. Thank you.
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Walters,
Yes.
Ms. Cleland McGrath,
Yes.
Ms. Moulton,
Yes.
Mr. McDougall,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Carter.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, we have item number 6, other business. Is there anything for the good of the order? Okay, well, thank you very much. Productive meeting, and just a reminder, you'll have access to my proposed budget at the end of this meeting, and I look forward to future discussions and the council getting to work on the 2021 budget. All right, good night. Thank you. The meeting's adjourned.